Hello mga lovejies! Welcome back to my channel! Now this has been a long awaited tutorial and I'm so sorry if we had a lot of delays, but you know, it's time. And after the success of our mermaid dream stop and of course our Nematis shell pouch tutorial, I think it is time for us to move out of the water and finally embrace the flames, so to speak. So, as always, I'm providing you guys with a list of substitutions just in case you want to use other yarns for this. And if you feel like the tutorial is a bit fast, feel free to pause it at any time or use the control buttons on the YouTube menu so that you can control the speed of the stitches. So I don't crochet this in real time, I just edit it, and that is why, you know, I would recommend you guys to use those settings to, get to follow the instructions better. Now this top, I'm excited to tell you guys, is actually convertible, so you can use it as a bralette like what you see here, and I also made one for myself in a mini dress form. So it's up to you if you want it to be a bralette, a full top, or even a dress. It's very versatile. That is why I'm so excited to share this pattern with you guys. I have made this pattern for my clients in the past, and I am proud to say that this is actually convertible from small to XL. You just need to follow my instructions on how to convert the pattern, and it's going to work out just fine for you. So without further ado guys, I bring you Ember. I was actually inspired to make this because I had this very gorgeous yarn on my stash, and for you guys to understand this project, or for you to understand how to alter it, you have to understand the elements of the project itself. So I'm gonna demo that with the use of the bralette version, and regardless of whether you're using the bralette version or the dress version, expect that this is going to be a little bit yarn consuming. So this is actually made with soft fine cotton, and the first part of it is the strap area. This is where we have the most details. This is where we have the intricacies placed, and the second part is the pad area, and the third part is the torso or the body area. So I'm gonna just teach you guys how to alter each part as we go along. You can also change how you will close this. On this bralette, I had it in crisscross, so you can do it just like so, but you can also change that, and I'll teach you how to do it later on. Okay, so with that, let's start off with getting your yarns. Of course, the conversions and substitutions are in the first part of the video, and then chain 22 stitches. The 22 stitches is actually the standard number of stitches regardless of how small or how big your project is going to be. I'm not sure with the children's version. I haven't made it with the children's version, but I think if you will alter it, lessen it by 10. So just do it in multiples of 10. But for the adult size version, just make 22 stitches and then yarn over, skip the first 2 chains from the hook, and then double crochet on the 3rd chain from the hook. And then from that point on, just double crochet on all of the chains, and that should give you a total of around 20 double crochets, including the one wherein there are chains at the beginning. Just remember that once you've done this first row, you should have a total of 20 double crochets. And then to work on the next row, just chain 3, turn your work, and then again double crochet all throughout. Just double crochet on top of the other double crochets, and just repeat this until you get to row number 9. And then once you get to row number 9, I'll show you what to do. Okay, cool. Alright, we are now at row number 9, and instead of going back to the previous row, just chain 3 and then crochet on the side of your rows. So just crochet all throughout, just what you've normally done. Okay, I just make around 1 double crochet at each side and then connect another double crochet. It doesn't really matter how many stitches you make at this point, just make sure that you put in double crochets from this side, from the top side to the bottom, just like this. And then going back, you first double crochet the entire row, and when you get to the corner, I'll show you what to do. When you get to the corner, instead of just going back, you need to make 5 double crochets on that same stitch at the corner. This is going to give you the body. This is where we start to make the pad already. And then after making the 5 double crochets, instead of going back, you just crochet on top of the other double crochets. Just do double crochets on top of the other double crochet. So now you're making an angle after doing that 5 double crochet increase. And then just go back and forth with this. So you first double crochet 20 stitches and then do that for 8 rows, and on your 9th row you go and double crochet until the sides, and then you go back and then double crochet again.
After the 5 double crochet increase, the only thing that you need to do is to go back and forth on top of those double crochets until you get to your desired row. So I'll put a picture here as to the conversion of how many rows you actually need for your size. But for my size, and because I'm a bit flat chested, quite honestly, so I had like around 8 rows of this. And then right after, we're going to proceed into making the straps of the top. So we start off by actually, of course, finishing it up, and then add 76 chains. So the 76 chains is actually going to be the base of your initial stitch. To elongate the chain, you just need to add any multiples of 4. So if you're going to decrease it as well, just make sure that you decrease the strap on multiples of 4, because our first stitch requires the multiples of 4 in order for us to finish it or to have it effective. When you reach the 76th chain, just add 2 more and then go back as if you're making this your first double crochet, and then just do double crochets on top of the chains, and make sure that you have a total of 76 double crochets going back to the start of your pad. So that is the base of your pad, and I'm just showing you how I did it right here. From this point forward, if you're going to be changing color, now is the perfect time for it. As you've noticed on this sample garment that I'm making, I'm actually switching out colors every now and then. So if you want to combine different colors, it's the best time to switch to your next color, and then just switch to the other color as you change the stitches. Basically, you just repeat this process on the other side, but if you're just using one color, you can just proceed from this step to the next step that I'm going to show you. But since I'm planning to change colors, I did this on one side and then mirror that on the next side. So as you can see here, I have the two sides together. The straps are on opposite sides of each other, and now we are going to start adding the next color. So since I'm very very adamant on using the colors of this yarn, what I did was I pulled together all of the brown yarns that were left over the base color, and then I spooled it and placed it into one of my pens. On the hindsight, I should have just used the colors that I want, but hey, I just wanted to use the gradient mix that I had. So I'm saving this brown stuff for later because I'm planning to use it on the torso stuff. But for now, I am going to start using the next gradient color on my yarn. Okay, now that we've done our double crochets, we will proceed to our next stitch. Again, if you are just doing this continuously and you're not changing colors, then you can do this continuously. You don't need to reattach the yarn, but since I'm changing colors, I'm actually reattaching my yarn to the bottom of my bra pad with a strap, and we will start with the flame stitch. So do your slip knot as always, and then attach it to your yarn, and this is how I do it. I do a slip stitch first, like this, and then on that point I do a single crochet. I chain one first and then do the single crochet on the same stitch there. Just remember to tuck in your yarns. After doing that, chain one, skip the stitch next to that, and then do 3 more single crochets. Okay, so you skip the next stitch, do 3 single crochets. Again, I'm saying it again. Okay, do single crochets, 3 single crochets, and then after doing the single crochet, chain 2. After chaining 2, and this is gonna be weird because I'm actually like used to crocheting continuously, chain 2 and then remove your yarn from your hook. Put your hook through the chain space and then get your yarn again. Slip stitch to join it together, and then, or chain 1, and then do a single crochet within the hoop. Do a half double crochet after that. Do a double crochet after half double crochet. And then do a treble crochet. By the way, if you're not familiar with most of the stitches, I have prepared a really short introduction to crochet video, and I link it to this as well. But in the meantime, if you are familiar with it and you're done with your treble crochet, we will do a picot. So to make a picot, and I'm pretty sure that if you've made my Mermaid Dreams crochet top, you're familiar with this process. You'll just have to crochet 3 stitches, and after you've crocheted 3 stitches, you're going to slip stitch on your base stitch, and that is your picot. Hooray! Okay, so when you're done with your picot, just mirror the stitch that we have previously done, and that is a treble crochet, a double crochet, a half double crochet, and a single crochet, all within the small loop that we have created a while ago. The combination of these stitches will give you an illusion of something like a flame. So it's like a flame stitch. Once you've done all of these stitches, just like me, just chain 1 and then skip the next stitch, and then do a single crochet on the next 3 stitches after your skip. When you're done with your 3 single crochets, chain 2 again, and then remove your yarn from your hook again. Put your hook inside of that chain space that we created a while ago. Combine it with a slip stitch or a single crochet, and then single crochet inside of the loop again, and then repeat the process a while ago. So within the hoop, we're going to do 1 single crochet, 1 half double crochet, a double crochet, a treble crochet, a pie cut. Again, repeat the treble crochet, a double crochet, a half double crochet, and a single crochet. So that is what comprises our flame stitch. I'm doing this again to show you how it's done, so feel free to slow down the video if it's a little bit too fast for you. I tried to draw this on a diagram, but the diagram is also a bit confusing to look at, so you can just slow down the video if you want to look at this more intently. On the hindsight, I should have used a brighter colored yarn, so I'm really sorry about that, but I do hope that the instructions that I've given to you guys so far is understandable. So as you can see here, the stitches are looking flame-like, and just remember that to repeat this process, all you need to do is to chain 1 from the previous flame and then skip 1 stitch and then make 3 single crochets after that. So you just continue that till the end of the row, and this is what it's gonna look like. And what I did here is I switched to a bigger hook because I used like a thicker thread. But if you're using fine cotton or poly cotton, just stick to what you're using. Just stick to the 2.5 and it should work out well for you. I'm just saying that because I'm using Endofill on a thicker ply than what I usually recommend it, I did this. So for the next row, just chain 3 and then turn your work. And what I'm doing here is I'm actually picking at the stitches where we attached the flame stitch to the initial row. If you think that this is difficult, well, you can opt to just do front post double crochet. It would work perfectly as well. I was just trying to be a little bit more OCD about flattening it out, so I did this here. But again, you can do front post double crochets on each of the double crochets on the previous row. So if you're going to do the double crochet route, just skip the flame stitch part and then do your front post double crochet on the previous row, which is the base row. Get that? So if you do feel like doing what I did, what you need to do is pick at the stitches in between the flame stitch and the base row, and that's where you will do your double crochet. So what this is going to do is going to create a wall behind the previous row's flame stitch. So the next stitch pattern that we're gonna be doing will be a little bit elevated. So just keep at this and don't forget to count your stitches, because you know, we're not supposed to be decreasing any stitches on this point. So just keep on going at it. At this part, actually, if you are going to be putting the double crochets on the single crochets at the bottom, do not forget to put a double crochet on the chain space. Remember earlier we did chain 1 before skipping the stitch and then moving on to the 3 single crochets? That's where you'll put your double crochet if you're going to be doing the same method that I'm doing here. So this is what it's gonna look like as you go along. It's gonna look a little bit, because you're putting this stitch on the flame stitch, it's gonna look like the flame stitch is being pushed forward. So from this point, you are going to have a front part and the back part to your project. So just keep going at it and it should just look just fine. As you add more and more double crochets, you will notice that we'll have some sort of a wall behind our flame stitch. And this is what I was talking about, because we're actually adding layers to this part of the top. And once you've done it, really it looks stunning. But if you want a simpler top, you can just skip this step. But this is what actually gives the top its edge. So here is what I was talking about. So if you look at it from the right side, you'll see the flames stitch a little bit bulging, and we really want that effect because we want it to be like the flames are moving. Because I was again trying to balance out the color on my gradient yarns. What I did here was I worked at both of the bra pads before going on to the next color. But I noticed that whenever I am on the left side, I start from the bottom part of the bra going up to the end of the strap. But if I am going to the right side, or when I'm working on the right side, I actually work from the upper part of the strap or the end of the strap going to the pads. So on this part of the project, what I actually did was I picked at the center of my gradient yarns so that it would have a more brilliant color, because again we were trying to emulate embers on this project. So I thought that it would be brilliant to just use the center part of the yarn instead of the reddish brownish combination that was left with the yarn. I took the yarn and got it together for a double pull as usual, and then I started on the next part of the project. If I haven't stressed it out enough, you can just do this project in single colors and it would work out just wonderfully. This is the bralette that I showed a while ago, and this part, or the center part stitch, is what we will be doing next. So I'm happy because on this project I get to showcase different kinds of stitches, and after this you can use those stitches for your borders or even just to embellish the lower parts of this bralette or this dress however you want it. So it becomes very customizable that way, but I'm very particular about having those stitches on the strap part because it's what gives it its unique flavor. So let's get started on it. And what I do, of course, is start with a slip knot and then attach my yarn on the wrong side at the end of the additional double crochets that we did. Remember the wall of double crochets that we did on the previous row? That's where we're going to start. So I attached my yarn over there and we start at the pattern. We'll be doing a fan picot stitch, and to get it started we will first chain 5 stitches and then double crochet on the same stitch. You have to skip the next 3 stitches after that, and on the 4th stitch you will put 4 double crochets on the same stitch, just like what I'm doing here. So that's 1, 2, 3 and 4 double crochets on the same stitch, and then you'll skip 3 stitches once again, and on the next stitch what you'll be doing is like a V stitch. So skip 3 stitches, and then on that next stitch you do a double crochet, chain 1 and then double crochet again. Okay, and basically that's just the pattern. You just repeat this process over and over again and you get through the entire row with that. So do your V stitch, skip 3 stitches and then make your fan stitches with the 4 double crochet. That's the only thing that you need to repeat for this entire row. So as you can see, we are working on the right side of the garment, so this is actually just behind our flame stitches of the previous row. So it will go on looking like this once you finish your work, and it's sort of a backdrop to the flames stitch that we did before, as what I've said earlier. So just continue doing the same repeats and stitches. Do your V stitch and then do your 4 stitch fan from this point on until the end of the row. And once you're done with that, I'll see you again, and then I'll discuss to you what to do on the next row. After you've done the stitches a while ago, it will get you to the end, and on my part, I think I got 1 extra stitch. So what I did was I just double crochet that part, and to get me started on this stitch, I chained 5 and then I single crochet on the space between the V stitch. So that's what I did right here. Just do your single crochet, and after doing your single crochet, chain 3 again, and then do a 4 double crochet decrease on the next part. So remember the fan that you made a while ago? Well, you'll just do your double crochets there, but instead of taking the last part of the stitch off your hook, you leave it on and then have those double crochets together and then combine them. And after combining them, just make a picot. You know me, I'm a picot girl. So just make your picot right here and put it on your triangle tip. Should we call it that? Yeah, let's call it that. Just put it on your triangle tip and then make 3 chain stitches once again, and then put those or combine those with a single crochet at the center of the V stitch that you did on the previous row. And then that's basically the thing that you'll repeat for the entirety of this row. Chain 3 first, going to the fan earlier, but instead of doing the fan again, you combine the 4 double crochets that you did on the previous row, and then after combining them together, make a picot and then chain 3 and put that chain 3 on the V stitch on the previous row with a single crochet. Okay, that's about right. So yeah, just repeat this process over and over again until you get to the end of your row. Okay, so I finished this part of the pattern, and I think it's time for us to switch on to our color again. So previously we used the red and brown combo for the flame stitch, and because we are doing the wall again, just like what we did before the diamond picot row, I think it's much better to have that on the initial color. So that's what I am going to do. We're going to attach double crochets again all throughout the base row of the diamond picot stitches that we did earlier, and I'll show you how I did it. Alright, so just get your yarn, and I'm using the same color that I used on the wall before the diamond stitch, as I've said, and then attach it at the bottom part. Remember the part before we changed color? That is where you are going to attach this yarn, because this is going to be another backdrop to the diamond picot stitch that we did. So chain 3, and this will serve as your first double crochet, and then do a front post double crochet on the double crochet on that row. So each of the double crochet will have another double crochet equivalent to it for this row. So just continue at that, and just like what happened in our flame stitch as we were adding the double crochets earlier, this will serve as a wall to become a backdrop of the changing of colors that we did earlier. So just continue at this for the end of the row. And actually I did this for 2 rows because the next row that we are going to do will be, or the next stitch combination that we'll put in will serve as like the finishing touch, and I wanted that to stand out. So what I did was I did this for the entire row, and then I chained 3 again and crocheted a double crochet on top of each stitch until the end of the entire strap again. So that's 2 rows of double crochet, and I'll see you guys again once you've done that part. Alright, so now that you've done that, and as you can see here, it looks like a wall behind our stitches earlier. On the wrong side, it just looks like a row of double crochets, but on the front side, that is where you guys will see the intricacy or the prettiness of this pattern. So I encourage everyone to just change colors whenever they want, or if you don't want to change colors, you can just keep it plain. But trust me, the more colors that you combine in this is the more prettier it looks like. So with that said, I took my yarn once again, and this time this is the third part of the gradient because I spooled the excess parts again earlier. And what we will do is we will get started on the final stitch combination of this project. And to do that, we'll get started by attaching our yarn with a slip knot at the end of our rows. Alright, so there. What we'll do is attach it with a slip knot at the beginning of our row and then do 5 double crochets, and this actually you can do 5 or 6. This should serve as your initial double crochet plus chain 3, and then after you've done that, skip the first 2 stitches and do a single crochet on that, chain 2, and then skip 2 more stitches, and on the next stitch you will make a 5 double crochet increase. So it's gonna look like a fan just like the other row, but this time it will be comprised of 5 double crochets instead of the 4 double crochets that we did earlier. So after you have done the 5 double crochets on this row, and here I am finishing it on this video, you chain 2 again, skip 2 stitches, and then single crochet on the 3rd stitch after that. And then just repeat the process. You chain 3, do a double crochet after skipping 2 stitches, and then chain 3 again, and then attach it with a single crochet after skipping 2 stitches. So don't worry you guys, I'll show this to you right here. So that's the double crochet, and then chain 3 again and just attach that with a single crochet. After doing the single crochet attachment, just chain 2, skip 2 stitches, and do the fan stitch. After you've done your fan stitch, just chain 2 once again, and then skip 2 stitches and attach it with a single crochet on that stitch. Great. After doing the single crochet, just chain 3, skip 2 stitches, and then do a double crochet, chain 3 again, and then skip 2 stitches and attach that with a single crochet. And then from this point on, you'll just repeat this process for the entire row. For the second part of our fan cluster, it's chain 4, and then double crochet on top of the double crochet below that, chain 1 to create a space, and then double crochet on top of the double crochet again. At this point, we would want to connect it on the single crochet below, but we will do 2 chains first and then connect it with a single crochet at the single crochet on the previous row, as you can see right here. And then just chain 3, just like we did on the previous row. Attach that with a single crochet on top of the double crochet of the previous row. Chain 3 again to attach that with a single crochet on the previous row. Chain 2 to chain 1, and then double crochet, chain 1, double crochet on each of the fan stitches. So we're kind of widening up the fan on this next row, and you will just repeat that process for the entire row. So with every double crochet on the fan, you put a double crochet on top of that and then chain 1, except for the last part wherein you attach it with another chain on the bottom chain, or the chain on the previous row. And then after that, chain 3, and then attach that chain 3 on top of the double crochet on the previous row, and so on and so forth. Alright, I'd like to note that sometimes there are stitches that are added and removed at this part, and this causes deviations on which part of the fan you end up in. And just in case you get lost on what to do with this fan stitch, I'm gonna place a picture right here as your reference so that you don't need to be hesitant when you are changing it up. You can start whichever part of the fan you want to. On this case, I actually ended my fan with the point of the double crochet stand. So because I ended there, I single crochet on the same stitch, and then what I did was immediately proceed to having a 3 double crochet cluster on the same double crochet on the fan. So to do a cluster, you just do the same method as doing your double crochet. It's just that you don't remove the last stitch, you keep it on the hook, and then at the final one you pull all of the loops together and then close it up. Okay, and then after that, chain 2 and then make another cluster, and you make the clusters on top of each double crochets that you have made on the previous row of the fan. And this time, by the time you finish your fan clusters, you attach the fan in the middle point. Remember the pointy thing a while ago where we had that one single crochet standing? That is where you will attach it with a single crochet. So what it would look like at this point is that the fans are all touching each other instead of having that little bit of a pyramid in between of the stitches. And this is actually just the same process that you will do the entire row. The only thing that you will do for this row is to add all of the double crochet clusters on top of the double crochets in the previous row, and then connect those fans together with a single crochet on top of the pyramid of the previous row, and that's just about it. If you ask me, I like this stitch better than the flame stitch. That is why I had to add it at the back part, or the, it's the final stitch of the strap area, because it does have a lot of body, and it complements the texture of the previous flame stitch and the diamond picot stitch that we did on the other previous row. So let me just show you how I continually do this at this point. See, when you get to the end of the fan, you just chain one and then single crochet on top of that, uh, like the pyramid of the previous row, and that's how you start on working on the next fan again. On my practice, I chain one before doing the next clusters, so that there's a it spreads out even more. But if you want to remove that chain one, it's really up to you. Just make sure that you do proper blocking, or that your stitch tension is not too tight at this point, so it wouldn't be too hard for you to make your yarn clusters. The next row is gonna be the easiest row of all, because all you need to do to connect everything together is just do a couple of chains, and I'll show you that in a bit. But first, let me finish this row so that you would see the finished product. And as you can see, I'm just working at the shell clusters, and I'm also working at an additional shell clusters at the end. Again, if you end up not being on the same stitch as I do, and it happens a lot even on my works, just refer to the original pattern or how the fan is supposed to be, and tweak your pattern from there. Okay, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. So here I am at the end of the work, and what I did was I actually just chain 5, and then on the chain space, or on the space between the double crochet clusters, I chained 1, and then I chained 3 again, and then I did a single crochet again. Sorry, not chain 1, just do a single crochet for every chain 3 that you will connect to the spaces. Okay, and this will give a little bit of like a small border around your clusters, and then just connect it with a single crochet again on that connecting part where the two fans meet, and then chain 3, and then do a single crochet on the space between the clusters, and just do this for the entire row, and that is the end of this stitch pattern. Now that we have finished the hard parts of this crochet top, it's time for us to put everything together and decide whether or not we're going to make it into a top, a bralette, or a dress. So at this point, the only thing that you need to do is to put the bra pads together with the front pieces facing each other, and then depending on your preference, because some people like it like low hanging, or they want it a little bit closed, just get a piece of your original color yarn, the same yarn color as the pads, and then sew it both together like you usually do. So on my case, what I did was I did a slip knot as usual, and then just crocheted it together so that it would be firmly in place. What I did to my own dress was that I crocheted until the part where it was almost at the space where we did the 5 crochet increase. Remember that? The corner part? That's where I stopped. But it's up to you if you want it lower than that or higher than that. Just make sure that you don't totally close the top together. So if you want to go through the entire top portion or bring all the corners together, it's up to you. It would still work. Alright, time to add the torso area, and this is one of the easiest parts of this top, and it's not as difficult as the previous steps, so I think it's pretty straightforward at this point. All you need to do is to go to the other side or the end side of the strap part. We're actually attaching this at the end of the fan that we did earlier, because that is going to be part of our garment, and it does add like additional uh, width to the actual top. So if you want your top to be just like the bralette that I showed on this video, what you need to do is to add 25 chains, and this should be sufficient for the bralette, because if you're going to do the crisscross closure for the back, then you don't have it too loose. But if you are going to make it into a dress, just like what I showed you, I would recommend that you add on around 30 to 35, because the dress has it like the closure of the dress is a tie. You can tie it together. So that's what you can do. For the purpose of this video, I'm actually showing how I first do a chain on one side, which is most usually the left side, and then I cut it up, and then I do that again with the right side, but this time I like do an additional 3 chains, and then I go back on the chains that I've done on the previous row, and that is for the bralette. Because if you are going to do a dress, you can do like, instead of just going on 30 on each side, you can just actually start on one end and then have it on the round. But for the sake of this video, and actually it's a little bit easier for me this way, because sometimes I do make adjustments. For dresses, I do 30 to 35 on each side, 30 to 35 chains on each side, and then I do double crochets on top of that chain until I reach my desired length.
When you have done several rows of this is what you'll end up with. And as you can see here, here is how I opted to close the dress or to tighten it. I just simply did a chain, and then I used my needle to insert it on several rows of the row just below the cup line, and that's how I made this as a dress. So it's up to you. Again, if you want to make it into a bralette, or if you want to close it this way, then it's really up to you. But this is one of the things that you can actually alter this pattern, which why it is so versatile. So now I'll show you the back side. And on the first part of the video, I showed you the finished product. As you can see, this is where I had the seam, because I was adjusting the pattern as I was going along. So if you want to go like have it continuous, it's up to you. And here is the part where you're supposed to add the crisscross pattern if you're going to make it into a bralette. And as you can see, I had it all the way through, and this is where I tighten the garment itself. So for the lower part, it's also up to you. You already know 3 stitches or 3 border stitches at this point. What I did was I just added the fan pattern that we had on the borders of our straps to the bottom, and then remember that technique that we had wherein we had the front post double crochets to add an additional layer. I did that again so that I had like an extra layer within this, which had the peach color peeking through. But again, the pattern is versatile and you can mix and match. If you want to add the diamond picot pattern at this part, or the flame stitch at this part, it's completely up to you. I do hope that you like this pattern as much as I did. I really made it a point that it should be very customizable, because all of us don't have the same body type, and you can alter it the way that you want to so that it would flatter your body. So have fun in using this pattern, guys, and comment down below on what kinds of
projects you want me to share with you guys next. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.